Oops. We had somebody calling
Hello,
in.
everyone.
Is that Trevor? It's 9 o'clock, April 9th, 2026, and we're at the Tom Baker Room for the April meeting of the Bismarck Parking Authority. Sue, we'd have you call the roll. See if we have a quorum.
We don't do that.
Well, we can do it if you want. Sure. Sure, why not?
John?
Yes.
Trevor?
Here.
Todd?
Yes.
Jim?
Here, we have a quorum. All right, thank you. So we'll call the meeting to order. The first item of business would be public comment. If there's anybody that would like to comment on anything related to the current agenda or the prior month's agenda, please step forward. I see no one in the audience that's stepping forward, so we'll move on to considering the minutes of the February 12th meeting.
I would make a motion to approve.
Trevor moves to approve the minutes. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. John? Okay, that motion carries. Thank you. We'll move on to the regular agenda, which starts with the review of the financial statements for February and March, since we did not meet last month. Jeremy, anything you would like to point out before we get into questions?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Authority Board members, so we've got February and March. Not sure if you want to approve them both together or separately, but I can go over a few notes. There's actually not any anomalies for the February financials. On March statement, this is for first quarter, or through first quarter with March included. The repairs maintenance was a little higher. We had some preventive maintenance done on the HVAC system at the parkade with a fan, motor, and bearing assembly that was changed out. And then on snow removal, that's 2 months' worth of bills for January and February. And then our reserve account, this is as of the end of February, $3,426,610.75. And then our checking account, $423,315. So in your packet, the reserve account was through January, so this is the updated figure.
So what's the total of those two, Jeremy?
The total of the two, $3,849,926.
Okay. Any questions of management? Anybody have questions on the financials? Any questions, comments, observations? If not, is there a motion to approve the financials?
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Now we'll call the roll, please, Sue.
Okay. John?
Yes.
Todd?
Yes.
Trevor?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes, that motion carries. Item 4 on the agenda is to consider a request from the Trestle Building for EV station placement in the Galleria ramp, and Representative Trestle, David Witham, is with us this morning. David, if you'd like to come up and tell us what you have in mind.
Certainly, yeah. Thank you, Chair Christensen, for inviting me here today. We spoke last week, you, myself, and Jeremy, about this idea. I just wanted to see if it was something the Parking Authority would be willing to consider. We would like to get a better feel for how much parking demand we should expect in future projects, and what sort of measures we can potentially use to mitigate that demand through measures like this, because providing that off-street parking is a big hurdle to the viability of future projects. In particular, if we can avoid multi-level parking solutions, that would be a pretty big game changer. So we think measures like this might help us get to that outcome, and we saw this as an opportunity to learn a little bit more about the market for that. So with the permission of the board, we would continue to investigate the feasibility of purchasing a couple electric vehicles, installing the charging stations in the ramp, supplying them from our own parking, or not our own electric meter on our site. So the only impact for the Parking Authority is really the impact on the property of installing the conduit that would, so there'd be some impact on the concrete, I would assume, to install that conduit. So it's just permission to have that impact on the property and then the associated leases for those stalls that will be most adjacent to our property. So that's the request. That's kind of why we're asking. So yeah, I'm happy to field any follow-up questions.
Questions of David or Jeremy or me? Does everybody understand what we're talking about in terms of location and the concept here? The proof of concept would be 2 charging stations, David, do you think?
I
Probably
think
to start.
initially probably 2. If there is really quite a bit demand, we might want to look at the potential to do more. But yeah, I think 2 would be the most we would do initially, certainly.
And for anyone watching at home, I guess we shouldn't assume everything, but
Yeah.
the trestle building is located adjacent to the Galleria ramp, and the location of the charging stations would be on the main level, immediately inside the ramp from the trestle building,
Yeah,
as close as possible. So
At the southwest corner,
there you go. Southwest corner of the Galleria.
Yep, that is, yes.
So, and at this point, there would be, you're not asking of for any financial support from the parking authority?
No, just permission to be able to install that infrastructure in, within your facility, and then sort of assurance that we'll be able to lease those stalls as well, I guess.
And the stations would be on your electric meter.
Correct, yes.
Questions of David? Trevor, did you have something?
Yes, Mr. Turbin, I think this is a great idea. I've been hearing the requests for it. I represent people at Patterson, and people are looking for these, so it's very popular, I'm thinking, and I appreciate that David brought this forward, because I hear a lot of complaints that people want to plug in their cars in the ramp, and so I think this is a great addition for the city of Bismarck. Thank you.
Okay. Other questions or comments?
So in the ramps right now, are the spots reserved for certain people?
At the Galleria, no, there's not reserved. But this would be, I guess, per the Trestle Building's request, is there would be just 2 reserved spots on that southeast side of the ramp closest to the property, the Trestle property that butts up to it, so it'd be easier for conduit to run there. So they do currently rent, the Trestle currently rents 37 spots in Galleria. So this would be in addition to that they would rent 2 other additional spots. We do have the room for that, but they would be reserved for Trestle tenants in this scenario, because the electricity meter is directly from the Trestle building.
And David, how would you monitor this? What if I have an EV and I just see that spot and I pull up and plug in?
Yeah, and I was going to clarify the previous comment as well. So the idea is that these charging stations are exclusively for the vehicles that we will make available to be rented on an hourly basis, sort of a car share model. So it would not be a charging station that would just be available to the general public to charge their vehicles. It'll be a way for us to provide the sort of an on-demand hourly, through Turo or other apps like that, for our residents to be able to use those vehicles sort of, in an on-demand way, and potentially opt out of owning a vehicle full-time and saving that expense, because maybe they walk to work, they actually don't need a vehicle that often. So the opportunity to have this available makes it more possible for folks who are interested in opting out of owning a personal automobile to actually do that. So that's really kind of what we're trying to explore, is how does that impact the kind of residents who want to choose to live in the building, things like that. So we just want to see what the demand is for
Good question.
this kind of service. So I would assume, we would request that there would be some signage that says reserved for,
But who becomes the policing of that if somebody
Pulls in off the street.
pulls in off the street and they see a charging station and they pull in? Is there a way that a charging station can be, is there like a fob or something that they could use, so it only, otherwise somebody pulls in and starts charging their cars when the, let's say the Toro vehicle is out.
Sure. And yeah,
Is
so.
Jeremy gonna get the phone call and say that somebody's using our charging station?
No, I don't think that it'll be Jeremy's phone call. The app that people would book the service through would have a customer service person that they could
Plug
call.
in and it just starts charging, you gotta actually pay for it and use the app, right?
Yeah, I think so. Part of, like, this is just the first step in investigating whether or not this makes sense. But, you know, we didn't want to spend the time to investigate it without first having permission, because there's kind of a chicken and the egg thing there. So we can come back with additional details like that if there's sort of a conditional approval. But, you know, we wouldn't rely on the parking authority staff, I guess, to be the customer service representatives. That the users of this service would be purchasing it through, you know, through the Trestle building or through some third-party, you know, software that manages those transactions. So there would be a customer service representative they could call through that system, so they wouldn't, presumably wouldn't bother the attendants there, or we would certainly make a point of explaining to customers, hey, if there is a problem, this is who you call, so don't bother the
I
parking
would think
attendants.
there's a control mechanism available to turn it on and off too, so.
Yeah,
And I'd
so we-
also think
yeah,
that
those are good
signage-
concerns.
Signage would go a long way to, you know,
Yeah.
help. And I think we would want David and his people to coordinate all of this with Jeremy, with management, as far as signage and location and what it says and who to call and all of that fun stuff. But again, it's a start, it's a concept. Todd?
We'd probably want probably the city attorney, an agreement in place for that, for them to lease the space, I guess.
Yeah, however we do the other 27 spots, I guess.
These are presently hourly spots, Jeremy?
No, it's monthly on that particular
Okay.
corner. I'm just trying to recall if Corey remembers as well, but I think it's not reserved, so it can be hourly or monthly on these two particular spots.
David, do you anticipate like an actual formal lease agreement, space agreement, usage agreement?
Well, I know we already have an agreement
Right.
in place for the 37, and I don't know if this is just adding two more to that existing agreement, or if this should be a separate agreement. I guess I'd be open to either approach. There is a pretty good chance that it'll actually be, well, we may set up a separate LLC just for this, just to kind of track the financials of this specific thing, you know, so that, you know, it may make sense to have a lease agreement with that.
Some sort of a simple lease agreement,
Yeah.
if there is such a thing, excuse me.
Yeah.
So where's the charging station actually gonna be placed?
So when I met with Jim and Jeremy last week, I also invited the electrician we would intend to use for the install. So he's still working on that proposal on the details of how he would propose to actually install the infrastructure and kind of see the exact impact on the property. But the general idea is that it's fed from a meter on our property. And that there is some underground conduit that gets us right up next to the parking authority structure, and then we just kind of go over that half wall there. Yeah.
So I think the action today, if you are all in favor of that, would be to approve moving forward with this plan, and we're going to task Jeremy, I guess, with working on the details, and we can have it brought back to us at our next meeting if you'd like, with, you know, consideration that there probably should be some sort of a simple lease agreement for the space that spells out who's responsible, who's liable if there's a fire, if a car, you know, if the lithium-ion battery, whatever. So that's probably a good idea, to have a document that spells out those responsibilities and liabilities. So, I'm sure you- go ahead, Trevor.
I would move for approval to give the project with the lease agreement
Okay,
contingent on the city attorney looking at it.
there you go. So we have a motion to move forward with this trial, subject to a lease agreement that'll be reviewed by the city attorney. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Todd, do you have anything else? Call the roll, please, Sue.
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Todd,
Yes.
Trevor,
Yep.
Jim.
Yes, that motion carries. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Good luck with the project. Sounds pretty exciting. Item 5 on the agenda is an update for, excuse me, projects RFPs for surveillance cameras and for the third and main ramp elevator. Jeremy, take it away.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, authority board members, we had, for both projects, or two separate projects, for the, and we ran the, publication for, advertisement for RFP bids, both at the same time simultaneously. Those went out, March 24th, and it was placed in the Tribune Legals and on the city, website as well. And that ran for 3 consecutive weeks. And yesterday was our pre-bid walkthrough for both projects. So we had good attendance for the surveillance cameras. There was actually 4 companies that were represented there. So, and we did make that a mandatory pre-bid walkthrough because of the intricacies of the camera systems and how much was involved and how it all has to hook together and that sort of thing. But good to see that we have good interest for that. For the elevator project, we had one company at the walkthrough, but this wasn't a required walkthrough. But 2 other companies did express interest to me that they were going to submit or are planning to submit bids. They've been through that elevator before, servicing and that sort of thing, so they knew the parts that were already there. So those bids are for both projects. Per the advertisement for RFP, are due May 6th at 3 p.m., Wednesday, May 6th, to the city administrator. And then the public opening will be at 4 p.m. On May 6th in the city building in the mayor's conference room.
Bid opening May 4th at, May 6th at 4 p.m.
Yep.
Okay. So it looks like good interest. That's good. We shall see. That's a Monday, May 4th.
Sorry, Wednesday, May
I'm
6th.
sorry.
Yeah.
Dyslexic this morning. Okay. That's a Wednesday. Okay, any questions of Jeremy on that item? All right. If not, we'll move on to other business. Who has other business today? Anybody? I have a little bit of other business to discuss, but since our last meeting, some of the folks upstairs on the 4th floor and I have had kind of renewed conversations with representatives of the folks in the medical district about the possibility of pursuing a ramp project that we've talked about for all these years, obviously. And it kind of fits and starts, and it goes dormant, the talks go dormant, then it comes back to life. Well, there seems to be renewed attention on a potential heart hospital in the medical district, which we have been told by the owner of that particular project that they will have their own ramp for a heart hospital. They don't want the city building a ramp or managing a ramp. They want to control their own ramp, which makes a lot of sense. But it's my understanding that their plans are moving ahead with early design, site design, buildings, layouts, et cetera, for a project that probably come online in about another 4 years, maybe. It's a big project, obviously, hundreds of millions of dollars. Tremendous financial boost for downtown Bismarck, obviously, and for the city as a whole because of all the additional employees and jobs. But separate from that project, we've been talking about a city-owned and developed ramp that would be a public ramp that would be available to everybody in the district, not just one medical center or another, but both, and clinics and the public at large. Those talks are in preliminary stages. We're hoping to rough out a kind of a deal point letter of intent, if you will, or more of a memorandum of understanding on where the site would be, who would be responsible for design, building, operating, who would lease spaces at what rates, all of those kind of things. So it's actually we're starting to get some flesh on the bone for a potential project there, and I want to make the authority aware of that. Obviously, anything that we talk about would come back to this body for review and approval, but at long last, we're actually seeing some potential traction, so I'd be happy to try and answer any questions if you have any. Don't really have any specifics. Trevor?
Yeah, Mr. Turbin, I just want to add, I'm dealing with the hospital people quite a bit, and patients are having issues with parking, so I'm glad to see that I'm getting some traction now.
Okay.
And a question I have is, have we talked to anyone at Burley County to see what their needs are?
I guess the short answer is no. Burley County has its own, its own parking supply with the ramp by the jail building and, of course, their surface lot north on Fifth Street. I'm not sure what plans, if any, they have to add parking for the Provident building when that remodel is done. But I've not talked to anybody at the county recently about this. This project would probably be located somewhere along the 7th Street corridor, not exactly adjacent to the county courthouse or anything
Yeah.
like that.
But I was just curious, if we could expand a little bit, if they're really in a need for parking, but it is a long way to have them go for parking, so I'm just trying to think if they had a need or not. So,
Sure.
Thank
Well, I think the county utilizes the 6th Street ramp quite a bit, don't they, Jeremy? For courthouse use and, or not.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, authority board members, yes, for jury duty, we try to have them use the parkade as much as possible, because there's more available there,
Okay.
parking, but some of them do park in the 6th Street ramp too, even though the instructions on the jury duty letters say parkade ramp.
Okay. Makes sense. Well, conversations on a potential public ramp in the medical district date back to, my files go back to 2009, 2010. I mean, you're talking nearly 20 years where there's been discussion and no action. So maybe this time will be the charm. We'll see. We hope. But any other questions or comments, anybody?
How far because Sanford rents a lot of spaces from us on the 6th Street ramp now. If they would build this other ramp, would we lose occupancy there? Would they pull some of their folks over there, or is that other ramp going to be so far away that it wouldn't make sense?
I think the short answer is we probably wouldn't lose any of those customers.
It sounds like their need for the new ramp is because of that new facility so for their additional staff and patients alone, so I wouldn't anticipate that we would lose a large percentage of
I think
their
that-
use of the 6th and
I
their
think
ramp.
that entity could fill a new ramp by itself right now today. So, and again, they will be building and operating their own ramp on the Heart Hospital site, which is great. But like it or not, there's still a huge shortage of public parking in the medical district. So we're trying to address that. So, other questions? I'll try and have more info for the next meeting. Any other business for the good of the order? Anybody? Trevor, do you have anything else for today?
No, not at this time. Thank you.
Yep, thank you for participating. If there's no other business and if there's no objection, we stand adjourned until May 14th. Thanks, everybody.